Welcome back, focused learners. So glad you're here, because today we are tackling a concept that completely flips how we look at personal development. We're diving straight into a fantastic piece of source material called the architect of human potential. Instead of thinking of growth as this mysterious organic thing that just kind of happens to us over time, this explainer asks us to look at it through the lens of engineering and construction. We aren't gardeners just hoping for rain here. We're builders. So grab your mental tool belts, because we're going to jump right in and figure out exactly how this is done.
It really all kicks off with this one big question. What actually builds human potential? I mean, when you see someone operating at the absolute peak of their game, it's so easy to just assume, oh, they were born that way, or maybe they stumbled onto some secret formula. But the source makes a really crucial, defining argument right out of the gate here. True potential, it's never just stumbled upon. It's definitely not a happy accident. It has to be deliberately, meticulously, and patiently constructed. You don't just wake up one day living in a mansion, right? Someone had to actually lay every single brick. And honestly, the exact same goes for your capabilities.
So, to figure out how we lay those bricks, here is our blueprint for today's explainer. First, defining the architect. Second, the foundation of potential. Third, building the framework. And finally, realizing your blueprint. Let's get to it.
Starting off with Phase 1, defining the architect.
Okay, let's dive into this baseline theory. According to the source, an architect of potential is someone who actively designs and constructs their own capabilities, totally refusing to lead their personal growth to chance. Now, really notice those active verbs, designs and constructs. The material heavily emphasizes that the total opposite of an architect is a passenger. A passenger just sits back and hopes they end up somewhere good. But the architect, they refuse to leave things to the whims of chance, or environment, or luck. Instead, they literally take out a piece of paper, draw up a schematic of the person they want to become, and they just start building.
To really anchor this working definition, I want to share this incredibly powerful, paradigm-shifting quote straight from the source. It perfectly sums up the whole philosophy. Potential is not a lottery ticket you scratch. It is a skyscraper you build from the ground up. Just think about the massive difference in mindset there. I mean, a lottery ticket takes zero effort, right? It relies 100% on statistical luck. But a skyscraper? That takes deep foundations, thousands of hours of real labor, structural integrity, and a master plan. The source is telling us unequivocally, we have to stop treating our lives like lottery tickets.
Moving right along to Phase 2, the foundation of potential. And don't worry, unlike a real construction site, you're not going to need a hard hat for this. Just a healthy dose of introspection.
Now, what's really interesting here is how it juxtaposes the danger of where a lot of people sit against where we actually want to be. On the left side, we've got the fixed mindset. The source describes this as untapped, chance-based, and ultimately just stagnant. It's basically building your house on sand. Sure, if the weather is nice, you're fine. But the second a storm hits, it washes right away, because there's zero deliberate structure. But then, shift your focus over to the right, the architected mindset. This one is structured, deliberate, and buildable. It implies that no matter where you are right now, you always have the capacity to add another floor to your building. You are never just some finished, stagnant product. Well, unless you decide to put down your tools.
So what actually keeps this architected mindset standing tall? Well, the source identifies 5 specific load-bearing pillars, and we're going to walk through them. First up is intentionality. Basically, every single action has to have a purpose. You don't just hammer a nail just to make noise, right? Second, self-awareness. You've really got to know the exact quality of the materials you're working with. That means owning your strengths and your weaknesses. Third is structured learning. Notice that word, structured. We're not talking about just mindlessly scrolling through random articles. It's about having a dedicated curriculum for your own life. Fourth is adaptability. Sometimes the materials change, or, the terrain is way rockier than you thought. So your blueprint has to be able to bend without breaking. And finally, resilience. The ability to just keep building even when the scaffolding completely collapses. If even one of these pillars is missing, your potential just can't bear the weight of your ambitions. And this matters because it acts as a diagnostic tool. If you're ever feeling stuck, ask yourself, which of these 5 pillars is cracking right now?
All right, let's transition into Phase 3, building the framework. This is where abstract philosophy turns into a real structured methodology. Let's see how this actually builds out, because the source does a brilliant job translating high-level theory into these 3 chronological, daily steps. Step 1, assess the current foundation. You literally cannot build a skyscraper on a swamp. You have to aggressively audit where you are right now, in your career, your skills, your mindset. Then, step 2, draft the blueprint. This is goal setting, but think of it on a macro scale.
What does the finished structure actually look like? You need exact measurements and rock-solid deadlines here. And then, step 3, execute daily construction. Guys, this is where the magic happens. These are your habits. It's the unglamorous, everyday bricklaying. It's dragging yourself out of bed at 6 a.m. It's reading that extra chapter. It's doing the reps. The big takeaway here? The most brilliant blueprints in the world mean absolutely nothing without that daily construction.
And speaking of daily construction, effort has to be allocated optimally. Based on the source data, a massive 50% of your effort should be dedicated purely to those daily habits. That is literally half the game right there, just laying bricks. Only 30% of your energy should go into the blueprint strategy, the planning, thinking, and strategizing part. A lot of people fall into this trap where they get paralyzed by analysis, spending 90% of the time drawing blueprints and exactly 0% actually building. Finally, that last 20% slice, that's course correction. As you build, look, you're going to make mistakes. A wall might be a little crooked. You need to keep some energy in reserve to step back, look at the structure, and make adjustments without burning yourself out. It's a perfect balance of physical execution and strategic planning.
Which brings us to the climax of this structural metaphor. Phase 4, realizing your blueprint.
The source material wraps up with this incredibly actionable, definitive statement. It says, the finished structure of your life is simply the sum of your daily, deliberate bricklaying. Step into the building you have built. I absolutely love this because it places 100% of the ownership directly into your hands. Think about it. If you aren't happy with the building you're currently living in, whether that's your skill set, your career, whatever your life situation is, it's really just the sum of the bricks you've laid up to this point. But the empowering flip side to that is, starting tomorrow, you can begin laying a completely different set of bricks. You have the ultimate authority to redesign everything and step into a brand new structure of your own making.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final, provocative question based on everything we've just uncovered. What does your unique blueprint look like? I'm not talking about the blueprint society handed you or the one your peers are building. I mean yours. If you were to sit down tonight and design the absolute peak of your own capabilities, what would those load-bearing pillars be? What daily habits are required to actually lay those bricks? The tools are literally sitting right there in front of you. The only question is, are you ready to pick them up and start building? Thank you so much for joining me today. Keep designing, keep building, and I will see you in the next explainer.